Hey everyone, my name is Zach. I'm a 24-year-old climber from Canada, currently living in Montreal. Welcome back to my training series, where I record most of my training and provide in-depth analysis of every session. So at the time I'm recording this, I have gone and done the competition at Bloc, which I think should have come out on the channel by now. But anyway, yeah, for those who missed that video, the biggest takeaway from that competition was that I'm pretty confident about the shape of my shoulder and I trust a lot of moves. I don't need that many attempts to, work into a move or a boulder to see if my shoulder's healthy. I'm pretty confident with most things, except very intense mantles in a similar position in which I initially hurt my right shoulder. So anyway, the point is there's been a lot of progress with the shoulder. It's feeling really good. And I think I can start looking forward to some more competitions on the horizon. The first of which is going to be the North American Cup at Bloc. That's going to be taking place on May 3rd and 4th. And then about a week and a half to 2 weeks after that will be the first World Cup of the season that I'll take part in Brazil, in Curitiba. So anyway, yeah, the kind of tester comp that we did at Bloc was very useful and has given me a lot of confidence that I can start pushing it more with my shoulder, and it's been making a lot of progress. And anyway, since we have some competitions to start looking forward to, I am going to take a second to just note that this is like the perfect time for me to start breaking in a new pair of shoes, kind of like 2 weeks to 2.5 weeks out from a target competition. You can see this, the first day I'm wearing a new pair of shoes. With the Tomo Narasaki Pros, it's going to take me about 2 weeks to get them into absolute perfect competition shape. And then I also wanted to mention shoes because, right around this time, Maddie and I have now got a discount code with Unparalleled shoes. So you can get 10% off with the code Richardson's Climbing in the descriptions for Unparalleled, which is super cool. So on the agenda for today's episode, we're going to be climbing at 3 different gyms. Our first stop is going to be here at Bloc Brassard, where we have some pretty cool comp style boulders to get to in particular. We have usually a handful of competition sets up in the gym at any given time at Bloc. But today, there felt like there was a significant, like just 1 or 2 more than usual, which was cool. So that meant more like mystery graded boulders. And of course they have like just that slightly more emphasis on competition style moves being comp sets. So anyway, this is the first one that we're going to get to, and this one was really cool. I suspected that this was probably going to be one of the harder of the comp sets that were up in the gym today, and this boulder was really well set and really cryptic. It's definitely confusing at first when I'm looking at it. And then after pulling onto the start move, and after that first attempt where I tried to kind of hold the jug and then accidentally almost landed on the big triangle, I realized, okay, the intended sequence here is probably meant to be like a campus for this first move and then bump to the jug and immediately paddle through and land on the big platform and land into a press. But I wanted to try a bit of a higher percentage beta first. Especially when I'm climbing maybe a grade or 2 below my max level. And this is just goes for anybody and can be scaled to any level. You can usually get away with trying to find a higher percentage beta first rather than committing to the lower percentage beta. That can usually take you more tries. But like I said, if you're working with a grade that's not quite at your limit, you might have a bit more strength than the boulder is like demanding for the grade, right? So basically you can kind of overpower the sequence. And typically I'll try to do this on my first attempt, especially if we're dealing with a low percentage move, right? I'll try to find a higher percentage beta that is just more strengthy, maybe objectively a little bit harder. Like probably it's physically harder to stop on this paddle hold like this and kick up to the zone volume. And if you were to rep out the full paddle move a bunch of times, and once you've got that muscle memory, it's probably physically easier to execute that. but it takes a few attempts for your body to kind of learn the movement, which means that it's actually going to take you longer to do the physically easier method, right? So this is a common concept that we're kind of always thinking about when we're bouldering. But yeah, this is just a good example of that. I'll always try to commit to trying a higher percentage beta first, and then if it just feels a little bit too hard, I'll try the coordination or the lower percentage beta next. Anyway, I'm making it up to the end of this boulder finally, and I got to pause for a second here and wait for this little dude to finish his green climb. And luckily this was kind of like an okay position to camp out in, but it was actually a little bit more strenuous than it looks. And then I realized, okay, I think I'm just going to be fine. And so I committed to the move, and I don't think I was going to fall in the right direction anyway. So we were all good there. But yeah, that boulder was like really, really fun and had some cool moves. And so moving on, we're trying this very crimpy looking boulder next. And typically I don't get on these kinds of boulders. One, because they're always just painful. And two, I'm very susceptible to splits. And so, it's one thing if there's like one of these crimps on a boulder and, you can just move off of it and go grab like maybe a better hold, maybe a sloper or something. But when you're just exposing your skin to these holds, one after the other, like back to back in a boulder, this is really, really increasing your chance to get a split. And if you're someone like me who's prone to splits, often it's just like worth it to skip these boulders to not pick up like a gross split. But I wanted to try this boulder actually because it looks like it has like a really cool sequence, and it does. As we can see, we have this really interesting knee bar sequence, which is allowing us to hold onto these slopey crimps. And then this toe hook helps kind of work our feet back downwards, which is actually really interesting. And the toe hook is helping me get tension on the really, really slopey feet that were otherwise slipping on my first couple attempts. But yeah, anyway, I wanted to try this boulder because it was really interesting, really unique moves, well set, and a tactic that I do try to implement when I'm trying these super crimpy, sharp boulders that I'm going to be prone to splitting on is I really try not to full crimp. So when I drag, when I don't bend my fingers and I just let them stay straight, I'm putting less pressure through on my skin. I'm, not tightening my skin and sort of like creating tension in order to kind of make it split in the skin. So by dragging and keeping my fingers open, it minimizes my chances to split. And, maybe it might be harder to hold on to some of the holds sometimes, but I'd rather just force myself to drag on a boulder like this to avoid getting splits. But actually on this right hand crimp, on both of these two crimps at the end, I have to make an exception, and I had to full crimp those ones because those holds were really bad. And you can see I have to look down at my skin because I thought to myself, oh no, I full crimped those holds. I felt a lot of pressure go through those fingertips. I potentially split myself, but I wanted to finish the boulder off and get a send of it. So I had to risk it there for a second. Whereas on those earlier crimps, while I was dragging them, I was like super confident that I wasn't splitting my skin, and it felt like very safe. But anyway, yeah, that pink boulder had some really cool moves and was really well set. So we're moving on, and we're getting to another comp set. Like I was saying, there's a lot of the comp sets up in the gym right now. This one was definitely a bit easier than the first one we did, and partly because I was able to just reach this first move, which looks like it was meant to be a kind of coordination dino sort of thing. But yeah, the start holds were just a bit too close, and I was able to reach it. But the end of this boulder is actually really cool. These black footholds are fully no-tex, and the ending is very precarious. You have to be very careful with your layback, and if I just shift my body too much to the right, I'm going to be tipping off of those slopey holds. So yeah, really, really cool. And this next boulder we're moving into as well also kind of has potentially the same problem as the last boulder. I'm going to reach this first move, but actually the way that I do this move kind of feels like it could be intended. And if this is the idea, it's kind of cool actually. It's sort of a coordination move. maybe we're kind of meant to jump all the way up 2 hands to this and foot stav, but keeping the start hand on and having to still do the step up is kind of interesting and unique. So yeah, the sequence on this boulder was cool as well. But I'm not sure if it's morpho like that. I don't really think so. I think it's actually pretty accessible with that beta, so definitely could be the sequence. That one was fun. And now this boulder here looked super interesting. So first of all, it was definitely going to be a question of whether or not my shoulder could handle this move. And at first I'm kind of thinking, I don't know, this is definitely sketch. Like if I can run and jump into it and I know that I'm landing very high in the position, my right shoulder feels very safe. It's only once, like if I'm like really above it and my arm is kind of already locked out, it's not that sketchy on the shoulder. But if I am landing too low in the position, I don't want to be pressing like up and out of it, right? That feels a little bit riskier on my shoulder. But actually, Maddie was climbing this boulder earlier and actually gave me some advice and said that I should try to ride the left-hand mantle for longer rather than just immediately firing into the right-hand shoulder. And that actually helped me get a little bit higher and hit the right-hand palm less aggressively. And anyway, it helped me commit to this move, which is super cool, actually. This is like kind of a big step in progression. Doing a move like this, where we're literally jumping into a mantle position on the right shoulder, really, really good progress. I definitely couldn't like fathom doing this kind of move like 2 weeks ago or something. And you can see that I messed up the end there actually. I tried to match the really bad thumb press and didn't have a good balance point and bobbled off. But yeah, this boulder is giving me like a nice feeling of confidence that my shoulder is like really making progress. And like this in combination with the comp, I'm feeling really good about stuff these days when it comes to my shoulder progress. And yeah, and I'm able to do it like lots of times. It wasn't even just a one-off sort of thing. So super psyched about that. And also psyched about this boulder. This one was really, really well set. Some really fun moves, really precarious balance move at the end here. And I realized I didn't actually have to match the thumb press. I could just set my body up nicely and jump out of the right hand. And this is a common theme with slab actually. Like ask yourself if you really have to match holds or move your hands around, because oftentimes it kind of just matters more where you're standing and where your lower body is to set up for a move. So there I didn't actually have to match my hand. My feet were just good enough and I could jump for the finish with my right hand on the hold. And then to wrap up this session here, we are getting on the last of the comp sets up in the gym. And this one looked like quite intimidating. Obviously it's like a really big coordination move, but it was really cool how this boulder is deceptively not that bad. Like as soon as you start doing the move, it's very slabby and the holds are very good. You are almost like you have more time to work with than you think. You can really kind of like do the move slowly and process all the moves as they come. It was actually really fun and cool how accessible that massive coordination move was, I think. So yeah, that was a fun sort of volume and variety session at Bloc Broussard. And then now we're going to move into the next session where we're climbing at Bloc Shop Hochelaga. And yeah, I think that this red boulder has only been featured in one video. Yeah, I think so. But actually this is my third session on it. So yeah, the first session was in the video where I did the boulder basically in two parts. And I wanted to like try a lot of the boulders in the gym, so I didn't get to really work this one super well. And this one feels like right at my limit. It feels super, super cool and doesn't have like a really, really hard crux. It's really well balanced, sustained, difficulty, the exact kind of boulder that I want to work on. You know, it doesn't just have one stupid hard move that, you know, you're just working on one move and the rest of the boulder is no problem. And so because of how perfectly balanced and difficult this boulder was, I really wanted to come back and try this one. So yeah, the first session I basically did it in two halves, and then I went back for another session where I was feeling like really bad and there was no chance I could work on the boulder at all. so I didn't even try it. And then here on this session, I think I did, didn't I? I wasn't kind of paying attention. I just did the boulder from the undercling crimps, right? On that attempt, I think so. Anyway, that was a big link because the move off of the first sloper, jumping up to that left-hand edge, is really hard. And I actually don't think I stuck that crux yet. So not only did I stick that move, but I just did it from the underclings and I did the whole top half of the boulder. So that was a really big link. And it got me psyched. And I was thinking, okay, I can send this boulder today. And it's actually been a little while, I think, since I've tried a boulder that was this perfectly hard for me. Like, we've done some hard boulders recently, but not one that's like so perfect. So I was like really psyched on this boulder. I wanted to do it. This one felt like a really good challenge for me. And yeah, okay, I think it's on this attempt. I'm feeling pretty good, but there's only so long that you can try this boulder before you start powering out. But anyway, check this out. Watch my left hand. I don't know if you can really notice it there, but I dry fired off that left hand, and that was such a painful dry fire. So painful that the kind of like very tips of my fingers on my left hand were numb for the rest of this session. Like, they were kind of perpetually like white and there was no blood at the fingertips, and that was really painful. I couldn't gather the courage to actually pull back on that boulder again. Like, I tried to a couple times, but my left hand was just feeling really numb and weird. Not injured, but just kind of like in pain. So I was unfortunate that I had to cut the projecting of that boulder short. But I was starting to power out anyway, so I'm not sure if I would have been able to send it. That try there was kind of like the big last hurrah. But yeah, a little spoiler, later on in the week, I went back to try that boulder again because I only would have one more chance on it. And I kind of had this random muscle spasm, like muscle tweak in my warm-up, and I had to call the session short, which was really unfortunate because as I was warming up, I was feeling really strong. But I had like a forearm tweak that was hurting so much for some reason. It's gone now. It's totally fine. It was just like a one-day thing. But I literally had to just warm up and stop the training day because my arm was hurting. And I swear I was gonna put some work in on that boulder because I was feeling really good. And that was my last chance on it. So yeah, I won't be able to get a send of that one, unfortunately, because that one was super sick and it was definitely calling to me. But that's the good thing about the Bloc Shop white tapes. There's always going to be a new one for me to come try, and they're always just so perfectly hard. So yeah, I'll definitely come back when they set another white tape. But even with my kind of numb left fingertips, as long as I wasn't doing the boulder that kind of made it hurt in the first place, I was able to keep climbing. And there were a couple new sets since I was last here, and a couple new black tapes in particular. This one was really cool. I hadn't climbed on these holds before, and at first glance, these holds look like unusable, especially these ones at the top. Just looks so bad. And even like being there in person and looking at these holds from only like 5 feet away, they just look impossible to hold. But they luckily, of course, have like a little bit of a divot that allows you to actually grab them. That being said, they're still not very good. And yeah, this boulder was fun. Definitely a lot harder than it looked. And this first move in particular, was much harder than it looked because the left foot that you're jumping off is no-tex. And it really makes you have to push off the right foot, which gives you a very lateral swing to the left, making the shoulder buster move harder to control. And yeah, that first move actually was kind of an interesting example of just how much no-tex is sort of changing the way setters can set boulders these days. If we were to set that move with a fully textured foot, it would allow me to push off of both of my legs and create a better trajectory with my jump in order to position my center of gravity to kind of be more under the holds as I hit the shoulder buster move and not create such a violent swing. But because the foothold is no-tex, it means I have to weight my right foot more and, like I said, creates a harder swing to control. And yeah, like this is just how no-tex is kind of making the old school climbers have to think more, you know, and think more about movement and just how much no-tex can change a move. And even if it's just one limb or one element of a move, it can really, really change things up. And I've just been finding myself trying to pay more attention to these things and think more about them, because yeah, the more that you can understand what no-tex does to a move on a boulder, I think no-tex knowledge basically is just kind of important these days, especially in competition bouldering, but even in a lot of commercial gyms these days, the no-tex holds are really, really popular, and you just see them everywhere. For example, in Montreal, in Laval, and like all around here, every gym is going to have a set of no-tex holds now. And even like the dual tex holds, sometimes they'll use the slippery part as the part that you're supposed to use. So anyway, it's really, really crucial, I think, to really think about how the no-tex affects what you're doing. And honestly, the biggest, like maybe one of the easiest things to understand and a general rule to always think about is with the no-tex, it's important to apply force like completely perpendicular to the surface of the no-tex, because you can't apply directional force on the no-tex surface. Since there's no friction, there's no stick, you'll just slip. But if you're just pressing completely perpendicular to it, there's no way to slip, right? Because you're just going straight onto the surface. Now, of course, with whatever move you're doing, it's not always like, you can't always perfectly do that, but that's like the thing to strive for basically, and it's going to help you the most. But anyway, that was kind of like a tangent I went on, but something I've been thinking about a lot recently, because I feel like I've just been encountering more and more no-tex with footholds and with handholds. But anyway, now we are here at Beta Bloc, as you can see, and we're trying this purple boulder, which is really, really hard. I feel like the sessions that I've been having at Beta Bloc recently, there have definitely been some hard boulders, but I don't think, it's been a little while since I've gone to Beta Bloc and not like done all the 6.3s. So it was a nice surprise to come and see this 6.3, which looked like one of the classic Beta Bloc 6.3s, like properly hard. It's going to take a couple sessions to do. I was really, really psyched on this one. And this one was actually similar to the red boulder that we were just trying at Hochelaga. This one is just so perfectly difficult for me, like really, really nice. I could do it in like one session if I figured out the beta fast enough, but it also could take me like 3 or 4 sessions. Super, super sick boulder. And the crux, the biggest element of this boulder, is going to be the 1-2 dyno off of the big left-hand purple sloper. So we get set up in this position here, and then we have to go 1-2 to these 2 holds. And man, this boulder is like so perfectly set. I tried a lot of different things. Not all of the different betas that I tried made it into the video, I think, but I tried to, do different things with my feet. I tried to go like statically or like move my feet around, go up left hand. Nothing worked. This move is so perfectly forced to make you do this 1-2 move. You can't keep the foot. You can't just stick the right hand. It's quite amazing how well this boulder was set. And this move in particular. And man, this move is hard. So the left hand hold is just a sloper. It sucks and it's like an undercling. And the right hand hold is just good enough. It has a slight divot, a slight in-cut, but it is not a jug. And these 2 holds are just perfectly bad. And you have to hit them both spot on perfectly. Can't be a centimeter too high or low. If you don't hit the holds perfectly and jump the perfect amount, you're not staying on. And it is so cool how, like, once I stick it, like I finally stick it here for the first time, it felt like no problem. But it either feels like no problem or not a chance. And it's a really interesting move how that worked. But anyway, it took me too long to figure out like exactly all of the little things that I needed to focus on for this move. The most important of which was actually just looking at the holds. Like as I set up for the dyno, taking a second to just look at the right hand and the left hand helped me hit the holds better. Also, the positioning of my left foot mattered for the launch. But anyway, it took a bit too long, and I think I worked this boulder for like an hour and a half or something, like so long. And by the time I was in like sending territory, I just start getting too gassed once I get through the dyno. Because that move to the left-hand crimp is like legit too. And to do that after the tiring beginning is going to be really hard. But I'm definitely coming back to Beta Bloc to try this one again. And actually, well, we're going to try it again in this video. But yeah, a little spoiler, I don't end up sending it. So anyway, at the present time, I definitely plan to go back and try that boulder because it is super, super sick and perfectly difficult for me. But since I had a little bit of energy left to play with, and of course there's always like lots of good slabs at Beta Bloc, I can go try the slab. And actually I was going to say, like, usually slab, you know, you can be a little bit tired to try the slab because typically they're not so powerful, but this boulder here is actually kind of a power slab. So this beginning move is very physically intense. The left hand press is very slopey and shallow. And so you kind of just have to press and pull very, very hard at the same time in order to get some good tension. And then this move over to the left, we're on like a jug foot, but there's so much pressure going down through your right foot smear that you have to push so hard to get over to the left. This one was a really, really unique kind of power slab set. And yeah, that one was kind of a highlight of that session. I thought that was a really, really fun boulder. Yeah, so anyway, this session is probably taking place like maybe a week after the last one. And in between this session at Beta Bloc and the one that we just did, I had the La Crux comp like I was talking about. And actually at the comp at La Crux, I picked up another little muscle strain. It's nothing too major, just kind of like a bicep pec sort of thing. I get this a lot. You just kind of try too hard in the comp with some adrenaline going. And so yeah, it kind of like flared up as I was warming up in this session. And this is just relevant because basically when I have a bit of a bicep tweak / pec tweak, the thing that hurts it most is when you're doing like a one arm move kind of. So the sort of one arm pull up motion where you're really engaging that scapula and just the one arm singularly is where it really hurts. But if the weight is kind of distributed equally through your arms, it doesn't hurt as much. But anyway, on the purple boulder, when we do the 1-2 jump, we really, really load that right arm as a one arm hold first and then hit the left hand undercling. So anyway, you can see where we're going with this. It was really hurting on that move, so we're going to try it soon, but it doesn't necessarily go so well. But anyway, there were like a couple other new sets that I wanted to try as well since it had been a week, and they set 4 days a week here at Beta Bloc. I can always count on there being some new sets, even if I was just at the gym recently. And yeah, what was nice about this session as well, like a nice little fun thing I got to take advantage of, was I had still some momentum from the comp that had just happened like 2 days ago. And I've talked a bit about this on the channel as well in older videos, but momentum is such like a potent thing. When you have a really good competition or a really good day of climbing, it's so cool how it carries through and you just have more good sessions following because your body, like, you're just confident. It's sort of like subconscious. You just move better. It's a really cool feeling. It's hard to explain. But since I just had a good comp where I literally flashed everything, man, I felt like I could move really well on the wall today. And that was such a good feeling. And it was unfortunate that I had this right arm tweak, like I was saying, because check this out. I'm doing the ending of this boulder way easier than the first session we were trying it. I was really struggling with the move to that left hand crimp, like the third last hold. But today, it felt like really chill. And I was feeling like really confident on the ending sequence. And I knew that if I got through the dyno, there was no way I was going to fall on the end. But like I said, this right arm was really flaring up, and like not only is this like really loading the right arm on this 1-2 move, but you have to squeeze so hard and compress these holds so hard because they're so bad that it was really hard to actually commit to that move, since my body would just wince a bit from the pain. But like, check this out. I'm just running the ending again to keep the muscle memory fresh as I'm trying to try the whole boulder, and it just feels so comfortable to do this end, which is not easy. Like, this end is hard. And so I was bummed that I couldn't take advantage of feeling really good on the end. Cause yeah, like I'm trying to like think, you know, if I hit the position like super perfectly, maybe I can overcome the pain and just hold on to it. But I'm just trying like 85% hard. You know, I just can't try 100% because it's just hurting the right arm. So unfortunately I had to walk away from that one, and it was kind of hard to do so because yeah, I wanted to do it. The boulder is really calling to me. So definitely we'll have to come back for that one since I couldn't work it today. But anyway, it was still valuable to kind of play around on the boulder a little bit more, keep the muscle memory fresh, and get more confidence in the end as well, and do it a bit better than on that first session. And yeah, there were still some new boulders in the gym that I could try because, like, even though my arm was kind of hurting, as long as I literally was doing anything but that 1-2 move, it was totally fine. But that 1-2 move where you really load the right arm and then you have to squeeze so hard is just like too much for the kind of tweak that I was dealing with today. So luckily everything else was fair game. And there was actually a 6-3 up in the gym that I missed the last time we were here at Beta Bloc. On this smaller wall here that's kind of opposite the main wall, I saw this boulder, but I didn't really look at it too closely. I was more focused on like the other boulders, and obviously the purple one more in particular. But then today, obviously I didn't have as much to try, so I kind of just paid a bit more attention to it. And this boulder actually is like really cool and really sick. And I didn't even notice it was a 6-3. But yeah, it's like got an interesting beginning on some like bad crimps in the roof, but you're on like a really jug foot, so you can actually make use of them. And then you have to grab this like nothing hold with your right hand, like this terrible sloper, and just kind of use it to, you know, float over to the left. The moon kick has to really pull your body to the left, and you hit the you hit the paddle hold and like fly up to the next. But yeah, this one was like a cool hidden little hard boulder up in the gym with a really interesting kind of off balance moon kick into a paddle. And yeah, I also kind of like potentially made the beginning of this boulder more doable than it looked initially. I really made good use of my strength of my heel hooking. I was heel hooking that first foot chip on the little volume, and that allowed me to move really comfortably through those bad crimps in the roof. And then, yeah, you can see here I finally did the paddle dyno, which was super cool. And yeah, that was like a really cool little hidden gem. And then we're finishing off with just a couple other boulders. I was going around and seeing what else I'd missed. This boulder also kind of looked like a campus paddle. Like anytime I see a boulder that looks like a campus paddle, it probably is meant to be, just because that's like all of these Quebec setters' sort of favorite thing to set. So chances are this was like meant to be a big campus paddle that I just kind of broke. It's kind of interesting too. I've been finding myself trying to break boulders more recently. Typically, like even when we first moved here to Quebec and were, you know, introduced to all of these really cool coordination sets up in like all of these gyms, I didn't want to try and break boulders. I wanted to just try and work on my coordination skills. But nowadays, and I've talked a bit about this in other videos as well, I've been also trying to make sure that I'm paying attention to what I can break. Because if I never try to break things, I won't know in a competition when I am actually able to break things. And finding the best way for you of a boulder is always an important skill. So I actually might be leaning too far in the other direction though nowadays. I might be trying to break boulders too much. I think there were a lot of examples in it in this video actually where I was reaching moves. So anyway, maybe that's something I should try to do more just as I'm noticing myself do it, is make sure I try the coordination beta as well. But anyway, that is the end of this episode. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.